transparent and vulnerable.
When you started this business, what was your relationship with God like?
Oh, very broken. Goal was not God or anything bigger. It was just, I need to provide. I need to make money. Stress is so high. I don't know what to do. So at that point, it was just like hustling. And so I'm just like, I'm a piece of crap. Like, I'm not worthy of anything, but I'm worthy if I work. Let's build myself up with my work. I see how that becomes an idol. I didn't have the means to trust him at that time. If I could say, like, could I hear the voice of God? The answer was absolutely not. I remember God is saying, drop to your knees. I got up and I just dropped to my knees. I started standing up and walking and just saying these prayers that didn't even feel like it was me. Lord, anoint me. Make me powerful with you, so when people look at me, they don't see me, they see you. Allow me to break this curse that's upon me. Allow me to get away from the things that are controlling me. And I'm walking in circles and talking, and I'm just like, I feel this power. I'm just like, whoa. Jake, today we're going to talk about, can you build a successful business and still lose your soul? This is a fun one for me because I've actually gone through it. There's the 4 stages, I call it, in business. And I think I'm at the last stage, which is full surrender to God. And so the cool thing about this podcast is going to be very transparent and vulnerable.
Yeah.
I didn't start this business for God. I started for me. And there was the valleys, the mountains, the downfalls, the highs, the lows, all of that, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, somebody building a business and you are trying to build a kingdom business, this podcast is for you. But we're going to take you through maybe some of the phases you're going through right now.
Yeah.
And the first one, which is my favorite, is because I think this is when people start their businesses and they're optimistic.
Yeah.
But it's the success without God, right? And so when I think about success without God, it's like, okay, well, it's the person that wants to start a business. And you ask them, like, why are you starting it? And usually the first thing they say, I know I didn't, is I'm doing it for God. You know, I'm doing it for money. Like, I'm doing it so I can build a big business. I'm doing it because really insecurity. I think I started my business because I wanted to be somebody. I remember sitting in my garage when I was starting this company, and I said to myself, I work hard because people see me when I work hard. Like, that was my mentality at that point, because I didn't feel like I was worthy unless I worked hard. I didn't feel like I was worthy unless I was delivering a service for people, right? And it was the grind phase. It was working 18, 20 hours every day, 7 days a week, no vacations, and just really being like, this is what it takes to actually build a business, right? So what we're going to do is each section, so this first one is success without God, which is the building part of it. We're going to go through different questions and the biblical backing of it. So before we get into that, do you have any questions before we dive in deep?
Yeah, I think just to give some insight to the listeners, like, you have gone through this transformational journey from when you started in business to where you are now in terms of where your end goal is and how you're bringing God into the equation. And I think this is to help people, that may be at different spots in their, their journey with faith, their journey with faith in business, to connect with your story and maybe find insight into how you were able to work through different seasons of life. And so I think the question I want to get to, because we're going to go back to the beginning, like, when you started this business, what was your relationship with God like?
Oh, very broken. So a little short story from my past. I grew up in the church. Both my parents were Christians, so I grew up in a Christian home, went to Christian middle school, went to a Lutheran high school, went to church every Sunday. I was forced to. Never felt like I had a relationship with God, though. I was a kid in church where you would look back at the clock and you'd be like, I can't wait to get donuts, right? Just had no relationship with God. It was just, we're speaking these things. So I knew the Bible stories, but from like the information lens, not really the relationship lens. And so I get into high school and everything for me was about basketball. Like, I was just like, that's all I wanted. I was focused on basketball, right? And basketball culture is, a lot of cussing and a lot of like not really biblical at all. And even though we went to Lutheran school, like none of us there were strong Christians. It was just like, we played
It's a
basketball.
sports team, right? It's
Yeah.
a bunch of like
Locker room talk, right?
adolescent males.
100%. So for me, it was just like, but I was having fun. Like I don't think anything wrong with it. Drank a lot in high school too. So much fun. And like just had such a good time. And that's why I was just like, this is weird. Like the Christians over here that they say like to don't do this stuff. It's like, what are they talking about? Like they probably just never even had fun, So it was really confusing for me. And so then I get out of high school and I start my first career, which is in commercial real estate. Guy I worked for wasn't a Christian, wasn't like against God, just was like, after money, just like this is what life's about. It's not about anything bigger. It's just like make money, take care of your family, make a lot of money. And so I started like going through and just being like, okay, like life is about working hard and it's the principles the world gives you, like work hard, grinds, and then you'll get an outcome. And then when you get an outcome, you'll be happy. And so the goal was always like, okay, how can I get the car? How can I get the house? How can I get the watch? How can I get those things? And okay, I'm going to work hard. If I work hard, then I'll get those things and then be happy. And so like the journey is actually really fun because you think it's going to be a destination that you're going to be happy at, right? And so as I'm going through all of it, it wasn't really a thing about God. Wasn't going to church, absolutely not. Wasn't reading the Bible. Just wasn't doing anything. Like praying sometimes here and there when things would go wrong. Usually, like God, I need you. Like usually when things go wrong, but other than that, like really distant. And then you kind of fast forward to then me starting this company. And mind you, during that phase, I'm knowing mentors, I'm being around people who are successful and they're not really guiding me to God. They're just being like, here's what you do, right?
Okay.
You got to learn leadership, you got to learn finances, you got to learn sales, you got to learn marketing. And it's just like practical things that I'm like, okay, like, yeah, this is what it's about. And then like the more I got to know a lot of them, I'm just like, something's missing, but I wasn't smart enough at the time or I had the knowledge to know what was missing. So you fast forward and I'm successful in commercial real estate. I had this girlfriend at the time whose parents are extremely wealthy. And I'm thinking like, I'm probably going to marry this girl. I didn't think anything was wrong in the relationship. I'm probably going to marry this girl and I'm going to be a multi-millionaire because I married into a very wealthy family. We then break up and my whole world just absolutely like shatters. Right. And looking back on it, to be like fully transparent, it wasn't because like her, it was because like I never had family in my whole entire life and they were actually like my family, right? Like I loved her dad. I loved her mom. I loved her siblings. And so it was like, it wasn't just her, it was the whole, like, it was like, I had a family for the first time that was going to take over what I thought that I needed, which was financial, but also just like love, because they had so much love in their family. And I was just heartbroken, like broken. And so at that point, it was just like, okay, well, I need to figure it out myself because I had a pathway where it was like, I'm just going to, I don't want to say leech, but like, I'm just going to join this family and then I'm going to be successful. Right. So then it was like, buddy comes to me and says, hey, can we start a content creation business? And this is how Millennial Media Group got started, was because he was just like, start this. And at the time I was like, I'm going to start a commercial real estate company in Arizona because like, that's all I know. I didn't know anything about this stuff, you know? And he was like, can you just do it with me? I was like, yeah, sure. And so at that point, it was just like hustling. It's just like figuring it out. And so for me, it was, the goal was not God or anything bigger. It was just, I need to provide. I need to make money. Stress is so high. I don't know what to do. And so it was 18 hours every single night, 7 days a week. Didn't have money to even afford an apartment at the time too. So I was with my best friend's mom's house, like staying there in a room, paying her like $800 a month, working out of her garage, just like making it happen. Right. And sending 50 DMs a day, just try to get jobs anywhere I could. And so I was just so busy where I couldn't even focus on anything else. Right. And I think that's what a lot of people are at right now. It's like, they're so busy and they're just like, yeah, Jared, like, look, God sounds good, everything. But like, I'm busy. Like, I need to make money. Like, I have no money in my bank account. I'm terrified. I remember thinking at $100, and I remember thinking like, wow, I used to just like spend this like it was nothing. And now this means so much to me. So it was really humbling because mind you, 6 months before that, I'm on private jets. I'm on private islands. I'm at this $50-60 million beach house, you know, like just living the life and thinking that that's what I deserve. Right. And now I'm in my best friend's mom's garage. And it's just like, dude, I'm nothing unless I get back to close to that point, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I started thinking about.
I just need to work.
Yeah, like I was happy in that, and now I'm not happy anymore. So that's the happiness, and it really wasn't, because I was only with this ex-girlfriend for like a year, and it was just because it was so new. Like anybody that experiences a life like that is gonna be like, this is epic, right? Okay. But it wasn't long enough for me to realize it was normal, right? And when it got normal, I probably would have felt the same way I felt against it. Would be like, okay, well, this is it. Like I now have everything. And so I think it was God's way of like pulling me away from it, being like, no, like I need you to build more. But you're going to build and realize that you're going to build for me. You're not going to build for these things of the world, right? So that's the success without God. And it wasn't like I hated God. It wasn't like I was like against anything. It was just I didn't know better. I didn't have the means to trust him at that time. I didn't have mentors. I didn't have people guiding me towards God. Parents were going through divorce at the time too. And so they were getting really evil with each other. And I'm just like, then I'm finding out things about my parents I never knew because the divorce is happening. And now they're finally telling me the truth. And I'm just like, wait a minute, these people that like said that they're Christian now, like, I don't want anything to do with this religion. Right. And it had nothing to do with God. That's the crazy part. It had everything to do with the people. Exactly. And so I was trying to see God through people my whole life. And that's when I started realizing down the road that you cannot see God through people. You got to see God for God, right? So that was the whole deal. And so the thing that I want to bring up for like the biblical standpoint is Jesus actually talked about this when he said, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? And so I think about that. I'm like, if people think that's harsh, where it's like, oh, well, you just want to focus on money. And people, it's a subtle way. It's not just like, I think people think like, oh, you just worship money, right? And you can kind of look at it that way, but it's like, if I can go back to my brain, if someone told me like that verse, I'd be like, bro, I'm not losing my soul. I'm trying to make it. Like, I don't know what else to do. And so like, what, you want me just to like pray when like I have bills to pay, right? Like it wouldn't make any sense to me. And I don't think that phase is the phase where you need to tell somebody like, just trust God, just go, because it will get them to just be disgusted by it. Yeah. And some people, if they feel in their spirit, they're going to act on it. Right. But if you talk to me and you said those things, I'd be like, bro, like, let me do what I do right now. And then I'll focus on God after. Again, it's not right. It's not wrong. It's more of just like, I'm trying to sympathize with people that are just like, I've heard everybody say this whole thing. So that's success without God. Any questions on that before we move on?
No, I just like what you said, because I feel a lot of people can connect to working very hard because you're chasing tail. Like you need to just make ends meet. And it's really difficult in those situations to be like, well, just have faith, just trust in God. And I think there is a type of idolization that you could have towards money, even if it's not from a materialistic standpoint, but to have it become so, to have you worry about it so much and to have you stress about it so much. Like, yes, bills need to be paid, but it's almost like you're idolizing it because it is at the forefront of like money. I need to get the money. And it's like a skill, right? Like being able to trust in God and having faith in God. Like you have to practice that skill to say like, hey, I need to make ends meet right now. Like it is stressful to try and come up with money, but in this moment, I'm going to have faith that God, you can guide my actions to help me get there. So just having, that's part of the mindset shift. And like, I struggle with it to this day, trying to not have the mindset of like focusing on the task that I need to do to provide for my family. But it's like, God, help me in this, help me in providing for my family, help me in making these decisions. Like the decisions are going to be there, but bringing God into the equation is going to be so helpful and beneficial.
And I like what you said about helping, because for me, it was more like, I looked at it from a standpoint of like, man's in the boat, there's a storm. Do you pray or do you row? And it's like, sometimes you got to do both. Right. And so if somebody told me that answer, I'd been like, okay, I can still work hard, but I can take 5 minutes to then pray and be like, God, please, I need you in this, right? And for me, I think about it too, where God's omnipresent. So he is all, and he's omniscient. He's all knowing and he's everywhere. He's past, present, and future. And so if you look at my life now where I am, and I'm still figuring things out. I don't want to say like I made it, right? Like that's absolutely not. But like I have clarity. I know the Bible well enough, and I'm around really good mentors and people that I'm like, I broke through what I was corrupted with, which is people and sometimes the church as well. Did actually harm to me more than good, 100%. If I could be honest. And I think God allowed me because I didn't hear his voice during that time. And people would be like, oh, well, like, what if God like spoke to you? Like you could have just like done this so much easier, right? And I was like, I think God like is, I don't think I know. He's so intelligent with like, I'm just gonna let him go through his little season right now, because Jared needs to go through this right now. He needs to see it because even if God told me in my head, Jared, you don't need to do all this stuff, just trust me. I don't know if I would even believe it. So a good father knows like when to say something and when not to say something, and he's the best father. And so during that time, if I could say, like, could I hear the voice of God? The answer was absolutely not. Absolutely not. And could you say it's partially my fault? Sure. But it was the best thing that's happened to me because I went through building from the ground up. So during that build, which then will transition to number 2, during that build was doubt and anger and frustration, confusion, hurt, lots of tears, lots of crying, lots of just lost. Even to the point, I don't know if you've ever been this point where you're so lost in yourself where then you are around people and you don't feel confident in your own body and you start to just say things that really aren't you. And then you start to embarrass yourself and then you just start, all of a sudden the self-talk starts to be like, you are just not worthy. You're not right. Like that was that phase I was in. And because I was so lost. I'm looking around me and I'm like my best friend's mom's house. I remember on Thanksgiving being in my room and crying because I'm hearing outside people being like, well, where's his parents? Like, does he not have anybody to go to for Thanksgiving? And I didn't. So just like awful. And nobody saw that stuff, right? And so I'm just like, I'm a piece of crap. Like I'm not worthy of anything, but I'm worthy if I work. So let's just grind, right? Let's just work super hard and let's build myself up with my work, right? I see how that becomes an idol. And so then as I go into phase number 2, which is when success stops working, that's the building phase where it's like, let's work. And when I started working, I worked everybody. I was working so much. I was working so hard. I was working so smart. And I would just do things that nobody else would do because it came from pain. So it was like, 50 DMs, no doubt, let's go. Right. You want me to do 8 shoots in a day? No doubt, let's go. Oh, you want me to stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning and edit and make sure it's done overnight? No, yeah, done, right? Like it was just the work ethic was like, and it was cool because I'm not just saying that. If you talk to my best friend, John Garrett, who was at the house, because that's my best friend's mom who I stay with, he could tell you the stories of just like, I've never seen somebody work as hard as him. Like it was just ruthless, just nonstop, just go. So during that starts to become my idol. And now I'm like, oh, there's my identity. I'm Jared Carver who grinds. I'm Jared Carver who works hard. I'm Jared Carver who you can't outwork me.
And it was working for you, right?
Oh, yeah.
You were seeing success.
I'm getting money. I'm getting checks. I literally made $30,000 the first month, not knowing the industry. Was doing things that nobody else can do. I mean, the first client we got was Body Armor with Mike Trout. It's like, why? Because I reached out to him because I was just like, I'm gonna take my shot. Like, let's just go. And then we got Kim Bauer, one of the biggest developers. So it's just like what usually takes people years. It took me like, then I was like, oh, I reminded myself, I'm the kid who was 18 that everybody said you can't make money in commercial real estate. And I made money in real estate. I did it there. And then now I'm nobody. And now I built another company. Oh, now I'm that guy again. Right. So now the pride started dripping in. And so it was like, okay, like I know how to do this. Like, this is me. But then the identity of it was the hardest part, which was like, now this is my identity. I have to work, which is when success stops working is phase number 2. And it was working at first where it was working. It's like, I got it now. But then all of a sudden it got to a point where I'm like, this really isn't working. I'm not happy. I have more money. I fixed the money issue.
Okay.
But I'm not happy. I'm tired. Like I'm working nonstop. I kind of put myself into this hole. One of our clients that actually ended up marrying us, Aaron Mills, first time I met him on a shoot, and good Christian guy, love him to death. And I would always say things like, hey, if you need me, I'm always available. Text me at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll be up. If you need me at midnight, I'm there, right? Like identity. I work harder than everybody else. And he goes, bro, don't say that to people. And I was like, and I kind of was like, what? He's like, you have a life. Like you don't want people disrespecting your time. And I was just like, oh, that changed. I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like, so I started then digging. I was like, oh, wow. Because I was that person that was like, well, I'll go over and above for you. And I was just trying to please people because I was still coming from a sense of insecurity. So that's when success stopped working. And I think about it from a standpoint of the business lesson is growth doesn't create your character, it exposes it. And so as my character is building, it was exposing what my character was at that time, which was insecure. If I don't work, then I'm a nobody. And so then I just went so far where then work became my idol, money became my idol, and my happiness and my self, my inner self became dictated by the amount of money I was making that month and the amount of people pleasing and praise I was getting from my clients. I would get in the car and there'd be clients that would be like, thank you for what you do. And I would get in the car and I would have this rush of adrenaline. I'd be like, oh, that felt so good, right? And it was like, I want that, right? And it was just like, well, why is that coming from? It's coming from because I just think the devil's on my shoulder, just like, give him pride, give him these things, give him this thing. And I wasn't going to God at that time because I didn't need him. I'm making money now. I got it. Figure it out, God. Right. And that's something that's interesting people do is they won't go to God for things and then they'll solve it themselves and then they'll say, God, you did that. It's like, no, you did not even use me. You didn't even do any of it. But it was all you. It was always yours, God. You did that, right? It's like, wait a minute, like you didn't even consult with me during this process. And so now you're trying to use me because it's convenient to you. Yeah. And so I didn't really do that. I was just more like, I got to figure it out. Like I'm good, right? Yeah. So before we get into 3, you have any questions on that?
I was going to ask a little bit more about your faith mindset during this stage where you have, crossed the barrier of needing to meet financial goals. Like you've passed that. You now have found identity in working hard and you had the success. Like, are you still at the point where it's like praying when things are hard? Or do you have fleeting thoughts like, any fleeting thoughts about faith, or is it kind of just radio silence?
No, because I figured out the pathway of how to fix it at that time. So like, when I first started the business, I didn't know anything how to make money in the business. When I started, if I lost a client, I would literally just know how to get back a client. So I was like, well, if I had to make 30 grand in the first month, I can make 2 grand because at the time we were charging like 2-3 grand a month. I can go make 2 grand somewhere like, So it's like, I knew what to do now. So it's just, and like clients weren't really leaving me either. Cause like, gosh, if you were my client in the beginning, like you were getting the best deal of your life. Like you were getting me at like 2 grand and I did everything. It was literally everything for their company. And I also had referral partners and people I could call, be like, hey, do you have anybody? And it always just like, it wasn't like a crazy amount of wealth. It was just like enough for me to be like, okay, we're comfortable. I mean, enough for me to like buy my Jaguar, right? And get the goals that I kept like trying to get over time. And then I had a partner too, and at the time, and he was also bringing in deals. So it was just like, there was obviously bads in the business, but there was also just like, we knew what to do at that point. So it became more about like, I got it. Like it was me fully control. In the beginning it was scared. And so when I was scared, I'd pray to God. Because I was like, I don't have an answer. But now at this point, stage 2, I had all the answers in terms of how to just make the money back. Yeah. But that's the thing, when I mean like when success stopped working, you could say like, oh, that's working though. You have the system. But it was not so much the money or the systems. It was like, this is not what I thought it was. Okay. Phase 1 to phase 2. Phase 1 was if I just get the money and get back to where I was, I'll be happy. And then at phase 2, I got to that point and I was like, I'm here, but it's not what I thought it was going to be. I'm not deeply happy. I'm not fulfilled. I am still chasing because my identity is now wrapped in like, I got to people please. And if I turn this off, I go back to stage 1. Right. So it was fear based. Yeah. So it was almost like, there's that song where it's like, when I wake up, I'm afraid that somebody else might take my place. That was me. That was literally, I heard that song, I was like, that's me, right? And so that was the mindset of me being like, I'm afraid. And so it was a base of fear. And so that was pretty much phase 2. Yeah. So biblical backing on that is, David was anointed long before he was appointed. God developed the man before he expanded the platform. And so I think during that whole time, again, it was the difference between me and David at the time is David was a man after God's own heart. And so you read the Psalms and he was just like fully surrendered to God. And he even like was frustrated with God, but he was going to God. I wasn't that at all. I'm my God. I'm doing this. I'm figuring it out, right? And so I think David did have some comfort. I then had some confusion. And so it was just like, I don't even know what to do. But God was still, before he wanted to anoint me, he wanted to appoint me. And I had this thing in my head for the longest time, dude. It's stuck in my head. I know it was from God, but at the time I couldn't give God credit because I didn't know. But I always had this quote in my head where it's, God won't give me success until I'm ready for it. And I thought it was like to be a certain person in leadership, to be a certain thing, or to have certain wealth or whatever it is, right? And each phase I would grow, I'd be like, that's it. Now God's ready to give me wealth, right? And now that I get fast forward, I'm like, the wealth, I was thinking it was money. And the wealth now is abundance, which is why this podcast is so interesting that we're doing this now, because I have been so focused and obsessing over wealth. And the definition of wealth has changed for me over time. So if you would have told me 5 years ago, Jerry, you're going to do a podcast about wealth, I'm like, let's talk money, baby, right? It has nothing to do with that because I've made the money. I've done all that stuff. I've met people that have a lot of money. And when they don't have God and when they don't have these things, they just are empty. It works for a certain period of time. It's like the cup thing I always talk about, where there's a needle at the bottom of it. You could fill that cup with alcohol, drugs, all these different things. It's slowly bleeding where you don't even know it's dripping out of the cup, right? And then pretty soon it's gone and you're like, oh, I gotta fill it back up. And you fill it back up and you can fill it back up with other things.
Right.
But once it gets too high, it starts to then just slowly go down unnoticeably. And then all of a sudden you got to do it again and do it again. And so that's like, well, I wanted to just pair the whole, and God is that finger that just like pairs the whole, and then it just like fill them up with you. Doesn't mean life is always good.
Right.
It just means that you have the real source where it's unlimited.
Right.
So that's phase number 2. Phase number 3, the counterfeit piece. So I go through phase 1, which is success without God, which the whole time I really didn't have success, or I didn't have God during the whole process, but it was like success without God. So fully focus on me. Then phase 2 was when success stops working. So I was like, wait a minute, I just try to get success. Now it's not working. Okay, we had to do something else, right? Then it was like, well, I need to do something. Like I need to figure out how to have peace. I have the money to spend now. So I gotta just like figure out like how to make my business run without me and how to outsource myself. Cause maybe it's a freedom thing. Maybe cause I made the money because I tied my time to the money. So maybe if I make the money and I get my time back, then I'm going to have peace. Okay. Because that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, real peace.
I was going to ask cause the dream at the beginning was I just got to make money, got to pay bills. Yeah. And now the dream is peace. Like what, at this point, the business has been built. What's your like in 5-10 years where are you trying to go to?
But right now? Or at the time?
At the time, yeah.
Oh, I don't think I was thinking about that. I think I was thinking, I made money, but there's a problem. I don't know what the problem is. Maybe the problem is because I just don't have any time. And so now let's start to outsource and build a real business and get people to then take up the things I'm doing. So I don't have to go to shoots. I don't have to edit. I don't have to do social media management. I don't do the other things, right? So let's start doing that so I can then get my time back. And then if I get my time back, maybe I can start taking vacations. Maybe I can start doing the things that like make me like have peace, right? Because that's what most people talk about. It's like you build a business, and I talk about two. It's the secondary from the primary. The primary is going to God. But if you just always just preach God, 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 then you alienate a lot of the audience, right? And so what I try to do is I try to like embrace them before I start kissing them, right? It's like kind of weird, just going for a kiss. So it's like get the trust first, and then you can actually like go to the next level. So for me, the trust is like everybody can kind of bite off the whole thing of if you just focus on money, trading your time, it ends pretty badly because you have no time to spend the money, and like why are you even doing it, right? So then the next thing is like, well, how can I make a bunch of money when I also have unlimited time? Like that's real happiness in terms of the worldly business, because now you have all this time and you're making money and you can do whatever you want to do with your time. Now, again, you do the wrong things with your time. That's why you see people that do that and all they do is party, and all they do is they try to find the next thing, right? They take too many vacations. I mean, think about Dan Brazilian, right? It's like he's done what people think the dream was. If you hear his podcast, it's like depressed. He's like, I've done it all. It becomes normal. Like, I don't even like, he's depressed, right? And he looks happy, but then it's like, what is he doing? It's the cup thing again, right? So the source is really God. But again, I don't want to get too much into that on this topic because we'll get into that number 4. But number 3 is like the counterfeit piece. So for me, you were the first person that I hired that was like legit employee. I had other people that were like helping me kind of as partners, and we would kind of like do things together. But you were like the one, okay, you were just going to do content creation. Like you were just going to do videography and editing at the time. And that's why I think it's so cool we're doing this podcast together, because you've seen all these phases besides the first 2, because you came in now phase 3. And so then I hired you, and it took me, I don't know, I think it took like 2 months for me to fully trust you, maybe 1 month.
Yeah.
About that.
Probably 2.
Still going to the shoots with you. Wasn't holding a camera, but like watching, you know? Because again, now you get it, because the identity was like, well, this is like, it's not just I don't trust you. It's like, I don't want to give this up.
Right.
This is my baby. Like, gosh, do I really want to do this? And then all of a sudden, I remember being at home and trusting you fully, and then you go to a shoot, and I'm just like waiting, look at my watch. I'm just like, okay, the shoot's about to be done. Okay. And then you text me like, everything went great. I'm like, oh, okay, thank God, right? But it's expecting things to go wrong, because I'm like, it's my insecurity, it's not you. And so then you outsourced a lot of my time. I got a lot of my time back because of you. And then we hired another employee, social media manager, got back that time. And then this is before we brought Megan to the business. And so we started going, and then it got to a point where I was like, I'm not happy. We're making money. I got my time back. I'm walking through our office. I'm like, what are you doing, Jake? I'm like, oh, nothing, it's working. Okay. And I'm like, nothing to do. And so I remember just walking over to the pool and just sitting there and being like, this is not it. I did the money thing. It wasn't it. I did the money and the time thing. It's not it. Like, what is going on? And at that point, didn't really go to God. Actually, I think I did pray, but it was like more like, just help me. Like, I'm so over this. I don't have any answers. So you notice a pattern with me. It's like every time I don't have answers, it's like, go to God. And
which is interesting, because my mindset has always been the opposite. I think I am more forefront in thanking God when something good happens, but when it's bad, I'm not asking for help. And I think that's, part of my characteristics is like, I have trouble doing the work and taking those steps forward. But when something happens, it's like, oh, it wasn't because I also worked hard in unison with like where God is leading me. It's like, oh, well, thank you for giving this to me. But like, I have part in that too. Like, I do think that all my blessings and what I have is because of God, but like, I'm not giving myself credit in that, where it's kind of like the opposite for you, like getting yourself so far and then roadblock. It's like, well, God, like I'm doing all this work. Like, where is it? Where are you? Kind of thing.
Yeah, because like when things would win, I'd literally be like, well, it won because I sent 50 DMs, and it won because I did these things. And so it was hard for me to give credit to God, because it was like, I kind of did all of it. And it's the wrong, that's my past thinking, it's not my now thinking, by the way, but it is my past thinking, because it was just like, why would I give credit to something that like really like, God, you weren't sending the DMs. I wasn't saying that, by the way, but it was like, that was like probably the mindset deep down. And then when things would go wrong, I would try to find answers. And when I didn't have those answers, then it was like, well, let's just go to God now, because I can't figure this out myself. And so I need to do anything. And I would have gone, he was last resort. I would have gone to mentors first before him. I would have gone to people. I would have gone to YouTube videos. I would have gone to all those different things before God. So when I go to God in those things, that means like I'm so broken. I have no answers. And so it was like, God, I need you, right? So I'm saying when I'm at the pool, I'm depressed. It's a spirit of oppression. It was me crying. So every time I go to God, it's me literally to the point where I'm broken, right? Which is interesting, because in the Beatitudes, it says God is near to the brokenhearted. And so I had to break myself, and then God would talk to me. But I wasn't putting those things together at the time, and because I didn't even know the Beatitudes and all those different things of like, well, God is near to the brokenhearted. And it was interesting, because at that point, God then delivered the video for me, because at the time I was watching a bunch of podcasts with Ed Milet, and he brought on the Iron Cowboy And so I was just like, and I wasn't a runner. Like running was punishment to me back in the day for basketball. It's like when we had to run like, sprints and stuff, it was like, dude, we're getting punished. Like we'd rather like play basketball. And so when the Iron Cowboy thing came up, I was so broken where I was like, I will do anything. And it's like being desperate, right? So it's like, I will do anything. And like, if you told me before that, like even if I'm kind of depressed, but I'm still kind of there, I'm like, I'm not doing Ironmans. I'm not doing running stuff. Like that's just stupid. I'm so broken where I was like, I will try anything. In the episode, the Iron Cowboy literally says like, I was depressed and it was just like relatability. And he's like, then I started doing Ironmans and it changed everything for me. So then that's when it was like, got it, cool, boom. And then what I did was, thanks God, thanks for the gift, Ironman idol, right? And then you see me for the last 5 years of Ironman. It's been an idol. I make sure I don't miss training. I make sure, because again, then pattern 1 comes back into me where it repeats, where it's now I'm the hardest working guy because I don't just run a business, I do Ironmans too. And so there's times where I wanted to quit Ironman, but then I couldn't and that's why it makes sense to you after Oceanside, the first one, I was not happy, was I? And I should have been happy finishing that. And it's because I was embarrassed because I let myself down because I wasn't the hardest working guy in the room at that point. And I had grandmas beating me and people beating me. But the first thing I said, it was like, I got to run it back. Because it was like, I had to prove to myself that I'm still the guy that's worthy of hitting my goals and doing certain things, right? So the idol then turns into it. And this is the story about that I want to share. People don't really recognize this. So in Exodus 32, it's the story of the golden calf. So to give people like relevance to this whole thing, everybody knows the story of Moses and the burning bush and all those different things, right? They know the part in the Red Seas. And so if you go back in the Moses story, you start to see that Moses obviously then got Pharaoh to release the Israelites. Well, in there's a specific detail where Pharaoh also gave them a bunch of gold and silver and gems. So it was like, it wasn't just like, go, like the movies make it seem like, just get out of here. And then they leave, right? It was like, no, he realized like, your God is bigger than my gods, right? Lowercase g, s, gods. We're going to then give you everything that you need because like, yeah, you guys beat us. Like I don't want any more to do with your God. He's already beat us up a bunch. So they give him the gold, they give him all that stuff, right? That's important because the Israelites then are like, oh my gosh, not only are we free, we now are rich. God saved us, right? So then they venture through and then what's happening? They're not able to talk to God at the time. They have to talk to God through the prophet, which is Moses. So then when Moses goes to Mount Sinai, the people think that like the Israelites are like idiots. Like, oh, they just like made a calf. Like they didn't know God was real. It's like, do you realize they saw the miracles God was doing? So they definitely knew God was real, right? It wasn't a sense of, I don't trust God. It was, we don't know how we are going to speak to God anymore because we think that Moses went up and he died. And so we need to create a thing for us to be able to talk to God again because the fear started coming in where it's like, if we lose God, we lose everything of ours, right? So what do? They melt down that gold that Pharaoh gave to them and they build the golden calf to worship, right? Super important because sometimes things will be given to you that look like it is your saving grace, all for it to be turned into an idol. So if you go back into my Ironman story, God gave me the sense of, okay, you can do Ironman, but then I manipulated the Ironman and I then made that my next idol, right? And so anything you get that's good, if you're not in a consistent flow of the relationship with God and continuing to ask him, is this what you want me to do? And even this podcast, right? We're in this Holy Spirit flow with this podcast. That's why you're seeing the numbers go crazy. That's not me. That's me then surrendering to God and being like, God, tell me what you want me to talk about and do not let me override it. Don't let me be like, okay, what are the people wanting? What are the clicks? What are all those different things, right? Because he'll turn the tap off. So I could take this podcast, which is doing very well. I mean, we hit 1,000 subscribers within under 4 months, which is unheard of. An episode that's like 17,000 views right now. We have multiple thousand view, full long form stuff. Unreal, right? That is not me. Because all the episodes that it was me are like at under 100. So then you look at like the episodes that God then brought us to and how he's working. And there's things behind the scenes that we won't go into that God is really working. So it's pretty clear. But I have free will and you have free will. And we can manipulate this and we can start turning this into our idol, right? And so that's why it's easy to turn into an idol. And so I think people think like, oh, it's just, okay, got it now. It's like, no, it has to be continually going into prayer, continuing, not stopping, not being like, okay, we got to figure it out now. Our podcast is doing good. Or I got Iron Man now. I got these things that are good. Let's just continue, right? Okay, now we figure it out. We don't need you God anymore, right? That's using God like a vending machine.
Yeah.
And when you use God like a vending machine, you do get the reward, but then you walk away. And after you're done eating it, you're just like, okay, now what? Okay, now let me go buy that food
I need something
myself.
else. Let me go.
Yeah, right. And so it's like, that's what people get into the mistake of is it's a relationship. It's a continuing. If you and I hung out every single day and we have a good relationship, we know each other for a long time. But then if you and I don't talk for 2 years, we're going to be strangers. And then what we're going to we're going to then talk about our past because that's all we have. But we're not talking about the last 2 years. But then the first conversation is like, well, how you been? That's why everybody's like, how you been? What you doing now, right? They're trying to figure out, like, I don't know you anymore. So like, what's going on in those times that I'm not with you? Do you and I ever need to be like, how you been, Jake? Like, it's like, I know everything about you. You know everything about me. We're talking like a lot. So it's like, it's a relationship, right? So that's the biggest thing I want people to take away from that time. It's like, you can have peace that is short-lived. But when you start to not have it be through the source, which is God, don't be surprised when all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, like this is not what I thought it was anymore. And so that's why it's the people that will keep chasing, you see. I'll buy the Ferrari. Oh, now my neighbor has 2 Ferraris. Let's buy 2 Ferraris. Oh, now I need a bigger house. I need more, right? Versus like, I don't need more. I really don't. I'm so content. I'm so happy. And it's so like, it's such an easier way to live because I used to be, I'm embarrassed if I walk in, I don't have a nice car anymore because I got rid of it, right? It's like, I don't even, like, you notice the people that have nice cars, like looking at around for people to see if they're noticing. Their whole mind is on, do people notice me? I'm now through God, so I'm noticing people. And so I will then go to people and be like, what does that person need? And if I see somebody that is in that mindset where they're in the car looking for people, I don't look at them and say, oh, they're so cool. I look at them and be like, they need help because I've been there. Right? And so then it's like, well, how can I actually help them? What can I do for them? Right? And so it's thinking this way, not thinking this way. And when pride and these counterfeit peace happens, you're thinking, how can I get peace? What can feed me peace? The money, the cars, the company, the more money, peace. And you're not flowing out this way. And that's why you say like the people that have the most peace are usually the people that give. The best thing ever, bro, is me giving to people and seeing it change their life. It was just like crazy for me, like the things that we've done behind closed doors and to see the people crying and the look on their face and hug. I'll get emotional talking about it because I'll get in the car and I'll just bawl of just like happiness and gratitude. Uncomparable to the watches, uncomparable to the cars, uncomparable to the big checks. Like it doesn't even come close. And so people are just like, well, you haven't even gave through a good heart placement where it's like, wow, I then use God's skill sets that he's given me to then help somebody which changed their lives. That's better than I just got in my new Ferrari and just driving through.
I think it's a good example of like living in the flesh and living in the spirit. It's like the rush of dopamine that I get from eating a really nice meal is great and all, but I feel that in my flesh. The same thing when I, stop by the homeless person and just get them something from the store and give them a meal, like that is something in the spirit. Like that hits you right in the spirit. And it's like, it just hits you so much different than like, oh yeah, a nice meal for me, like doing something for me and filling my flesh is great and all. But when that starts to turn outward, and you're getting fulfilled in the spirit, it's like, okay, this is right.
That's when you see people trapped because when you can tell, I know people that aren't, you never have met a giver that doesn't check on people and is not happy. Like I've never met a person that's truly giving to people that's just like miserable. Right?
100%.
So it's like, because it's like almost a contract that you're signing where it's like, well, if I'm giving, that means I have to trust that it will come back. So you're not operating from a scarcity mindset. You're operating from an abundant mindset. And when you tap into the abundant mindset, and I see a lot of people, they're like, well, I don't want to give that away because they do the math on it. That's what I used to do too. The math, okay, I can only give this much. And then you do it and you're kind of like, oh, should I have done it? And it actually makes you feel worse. So I think people think like, oh, if I just give, I'll listen to Jared and it will make me feel better. It's a heart placement. And so it's like, I'm going to give, or I know I'm going to reap these benefits because I have a source above me that is going to see it from my heart. Because he knows. It's so funny because the church did it. Like I grew up in this with my parents and the church, everything else. You got these people that go to church and they worship God and everything else. And they go home and they'll watch porn or they'll cuss, they'll do things behind closed doors. It's like, do you not realize that God sees all of it? So you're doing these things for people and you're not even realizing that he sees everything, not just what you do, your heart.
Yeah.
So it's like, be more fearful behind closed doors than you are in front of people. And so that's like the heart placement. And so that's why when people say like, oh, if you give, Tony Robbins says it, if you just, the clients I have, if they just give and they get more money back, it's like the system works, but it is a counterfeit when you don't understand that it's coming from the actual source, right? It's almost like we drink a bottle of water in plastic. It's like, well, it's still water, right? And it's going to have microplastics in it. It's not going to be the full benefit of what we can do if we went to the source and we filled up from the actual tap and we actually drank the water. That water is so much better for you. Now, they both are water. They both taste pretty similar to each other, but you can't see the difference really. But you then feel the difference when you have good food, good whole foods versus a fabricated chicken that has all these different things. They look the same, but then you eat them and you're like, wow, they're very different in my body, right? So we'll get into number 4 now, which is the great surrender. This is now the phase that I'm at, which you're seeing. A lot of it at first was kind of scary for me because you see that like I really didn't want to share faith because of how people would like react to me. I really didn't want to like, come off like, oh, now this guy's a Christian and be labeled like I've seen other people. And to be fair, like how I labeled some people that went off. But then it kind of was a thing where I was trying to find somebody that was like, I want to say making Christianity or like making a relationship with God cool because they all kind of like, I didn't relate to them. I'm not talking bad upon people at all, but just like I go to a church and I meet those people and it's like, I don't even want to, like they're strange to me. And again, like, different people for different people. That's why I thought everybody has to be a certain group. And that's why I relate to like athletes, right? Yeah. But I'm like, athletes are not with God, but they're cool. Like I like them, right?
I think that's the modern problem with Christianity. Oh, if you're a Christian, you have to be like this and act like this and sound like this.
Yeah, like they all have the same haircuts and they're all just like so genuinely like overly happy where you almost think it's unauthentic. And then they're always saying like, God bless you. Like, bless you, man. God, like they're saying this word and you're just like, be real. Like, come on. Like I want real. And maybe they are, but like, it doesn't feel to me personally. So I was trying to find people, again, seeing people or God through people. And I got to a point where I was like, well, why don't I just open up this Bible and let me dissect it? Let me not go in from the standpoint of like, I just will believe it no matter what. Let me start to challenge it. Let me start to really dissect it and see what does this Bible actually say? And then you start to get into like Genesis 6, right? And you're like, wait a minute, there's these things they call Nephilim, and the sons of God are making babies with females. Like, what is this book, right? And then you start to get into, 1st and 2nd Samuel and 1st, 2nd Kings, start learning about Solomon. And you're like, that's kind of a cool story. And then you got to get into Proverbs. You're like, genius, like absolutely genius. What are you saying? Like I can relate. If anybody is starting their relationship with God and you go to Proverbs, it's relatable in so many different ways. So it's like such a good book. And then you go into Ecclesiastes and you're like, oh my gosh, like what? And then you're like, wait a minute, the person that wrote all these books was the same person, right? And you're like, okay, what was the phases of it? You start to get curious and you're like, wait, okay, so he wrote Proverbs when he was younger. 1st, 2nd Kings is his story. And then you have Ecclesiastes at the end of his life. And you do not see a fairy tale story. You see a crazy story. So then you start to dissect and you're like, wait a minute. Then you go into like you go into David and Goliath story and you're like, start to read Psalms and you're like, I've always heard the Psalms from the passages and memorize this verse, but you read the whole entire thing. You're like, this is a depressing book. What is going on here? And you start to understand like, oh, he's in caves. And so you start to unpack the story for yourself and you start to read these details. You're like the Moses story. I never put together the whole thing of like, literally the gold was given to them because they don't show that stuff. It was the movies were always like, just go, get out of here. And they just run. Yeah. Right. And then all of a sudden chariots are chasing them after. It's like, that's not what was happening. And so then you like read the story and you're like, people really don't even know what is happening in these stories until you go through the whole entire thing. And you're like, this is an epic, epic story. So that's when I was just like, you know what, God, I'm sorry. Like what I did to you was what I hate the most about what people do to me, which is judge the book by its cover. Oh, he's a white guy who has money. He must come from money, right? And that hurts me inside. Yeah. I'm like, you didn't even get a chance to know my story. You didn't even get a chance to know who I was. You didn't even read. You didn't ask questions. You didn't even do any of it. You trusted other people's gossip and opinions, which that can be the stories and the church telling these cookie cutter stories of, God's taken care of all the pain. God's done all this stuff. And like using words that need to have descriptions and a defining measure to them without you saying a blanket, like Jesus saves. That sounds good.
Right.
It's like, what does that even mean? Right. And then you start to really see how Jesus saves. Right. Yeah. That's why you see like up here, I have the crucifixion nails. I have what they whipped him with. And we remember me and you both held them, and it made the story real. Yeah. You're just like, okay, now I'm getting it. Because we always see the Jesus on the cross and he looks all nice. It's like, now you start to see really what he looked like. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. This guy did that for me. Now I can see it. Because if any of us could go back and go that time and see what he did on the cross, it would change the whole perspective.
Oh yeah.
We all make it just too nice, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, why would he do that? You ask the first question, why would he do that for me? Why? That starts the journey of curiosity, right? Yeah. So the great surrender was getting to the point where I was just like, man, like I do need to study this Bible. I need to spend more time with God. I need to spend time like a good friend would. If you want to have a good relationship with a friend, you got to spend time with them. You have to go on adventures with them. You have to struggle with them, more importantly, right? It's not just, oh, let's just have happiness and fun. You learn the most when people, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and I think, have built our relationship so strong, not based off the good times, based off of like when I needed you or you needed me. Yeah. And that's when we really got close. And working on hard things together. That's really what, so it's like, okay, well, you want to just take God for the goods? That's not going to be a deep relationship. Yeah. Like go to him when you're brokenhearted, like it says, right? Yeah. So
I imagine like you're in a corporate office and you see the same people every day and it's all nice and it's all happy and fun. Like the relationship with those coworkers are good, but that's the extent of it, versus you go on the company hike and you're hiking up Yosemite and someone breaks their leg and you have to tie them up and carry them all the way down. That is the struggle. That is the hard times. That is, and then you make it down and it's good. And like the relationship that you build in going through that journey with them is the same thing.
I actually, that's so funny you said that, because I said this to somebody the other day. I said, imagine working with somebody for 12 years and you go 9 to 5 and you're with them for 8 hours and you just work on the company, right? And then you don't see them for 10 years. You might not even recognize them, even if you're with them for 12 years. But let's say you went on vacation and your boat tipped over and you saved each other's life. And that's the only time you ever met that person, which maybe on a cruise or whatever it is, right? You go 50 years from there and you see that person and all of a sudden, what is it? It's like, oh, bro, like you hug, you embrace, it's this connection, right? So it's like, that's the thing. I think people run away from the hard times with God, and that's when he is able to actually bring you in. Because also people don't recognize that like when Jesus, if you research the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you really understand the story of Jesus, he went through all of the pains we were going through. Betrayed by his best friend, lost, people, right? Betrayed by people and like was mocked, gossiped about, tempted. Like there's not one sin that he did not go through as he was a human. And it was actually like a brutal story. And what did he do most of the times? He just stayed quiet, right? Because he knew his mission. And he couldn't have done that without God, right? Because like that's why he would go away for so many times and pray and fast and pray. And even before the night of the crucifixion, it was him being like, God, can you take this cup from me, right? And you're like starting to realize, you're like, wow, okay, so he understands. Because at first you had to think like, well, God doesn't understand the pain. It's like, well, no, he actually came down and he went through it. He understands more than we think. Yeah. And so he will sit there with you and do all of it. So when you start to understand that, you start to be like, okay, well, I am prepared to surrender to this higher power and God of the Bible, and all that, right? Because you're now researching for yourself, and there's still so much more to research. It's why they call it the living word, because I'll read, so I do the thing now where I read, Psalms is 31 chapters. And so I will read one every day of like, so it's like the 22nd right now. So I'll read Psalms, Proverbs 22nd or 22. And I've done that now for 3 months. And each time I highlight something different and write a different note. It means something different. So it's living word. It's really living. It's not just every other book you read it and you're like, this is the same thing. It means one thing. This means multiple different things combined. So the more you read it, that's why it's like people say, I can read the whole entire Bible. Tony Robbins said like, I went to my island in Fiji and I read the whole entire Bible in 4 days. And my question was, does God grow? It's like, buddy, like you have no idea what you are talking about. Like for you to dummy down, okay, you got to start first of all. Will you buy into the idea that possibly this book is written by the creator of all things, right? Now, if you don't believe in that, then you're going to read it like a normal book. Dead end. If you approach it though, because that's the right way of approaching it, because that's what they're claiming, right? It's what the book is actually claiming. If you approach it that way, then you have to realize that every single thing in the Bible has meaning behind it. And then did you pass the story up about when the Pharisees knew the Bible? For you to be a Pharisee,
Better
you
than
had to
anyone else.
memorize, I think the first 4 or 5, don't quote me on that, but 5 books of the Bible, like memorize, right? Did they not know the signs? It was in the books that they had memorized. Did they not know the signs?
Yeah.
And it's not because of the words, it's because they didn't have the relationship with God. So that's the living word. So you can know all the words, you can know how to do everything, but if you do not know how to do it with God, it doesn't make it where it's actually the living word, right? And so that whole thing, you're like, well, that's what you're doing. And for you to ask an ignorant question like, well, does God grow, right? It's like you really didn't even know what you're talking about, right? So it's like the living word is you keep reading it and it brings something new to life, because then God can trust you with it.
Yeah.
God can then present more things to you. He can then work on your minds. And so there's a certain thing to it. Now, that's all great. The thing that I would always miss though is what I love, which is Proverbs 15:22, which is plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. So that's why you're seeing me right now. The people I surround myself with, like you don't see old people that I surround myself with that aren't bringing me closer to God. You see me go towards people that really are rich with God, that are praying heavily, that are doing all that, right? And that helps so much because it is such an up and down relationship. I think people think like, oh, now like Jared praying is easier and Jared reading the Bible is easier. No, like my flesh does not want to do it. Like it still doesn't. But I know what it does to my soul and I know how it feeds me. And so then I allow myself to do it. And I've worked at that muscle of doing things I don't want to do. I do things I don't want to do if I know it's going to make me better. And so I've worked that muscle out with Iron Man and all the different business stuff I've done. And so it's like, well, why would I not do this for God? And then after I'm done reading or being with his presence, I'm just like, that was amazing, right? But it's not it's an amazing where I got to do that again, right? I wake up next morning, my flesh then resets, right? So it's crucifying yourself every single day. And the way that you do that is by having counsel. Otherwise you will fall off, right? You won't have these people then preaching on you or anointing you or doing things that actually are like, okay, like I'm still on my journey, right? So that's the most important thing for the grace surrender that I've learned. And I'm in the middle of this right now. So I'm almost people like, oh, I'm just got it perfully down.
Right.
It's what I'm learning. And that's why this podcast is not about, I think a lot of podcasts out there is like, oh, I'm going to act like a pastor and just preach to you guys, right? No, what I notice is there's not many podcasts that are like, hey, I'm going through it right now. And I might look back on this episode in 10, 15, 5 years, maybe a few months and be like, I disagree with some things I'm saying. It's the period of time though. And that's what growth actually is with God is I'm praying though that God, every word that I say, please use it for your good. And hopefully I don't overstep that boundary and I don't harm anybody with what I'm preaching. But this is more about like, that's why like the comments are invited. If someone like goes against it, it's like gets me to think about it, 100%. Right? But sometimes the comments are also from a different part of pain that they have. But that's why I think the conversation, which the church doesn't want to do a lot of times, they want to be like, I'm the pastor, I'm the leader, I'm the head of the whole thing. You listen to me because I've done this for 45 years, Jake. I've read the Bible front and back 50,000 times, right? You can't say nothing to me. It's like, oh gosh, man. Like, did God use the saints? The disciples, were they the best ones that were there? Did they know the Bible the best? Did they know all that? So no, I don't know. I'd be careful with like, people being like, well, because. Now I think there's importance to that. I think pastors are definitely important. I'm not talking poorly on pastors, people like that. But there's a place for bridging the gap between somebody who's too far away and somebody walking close by your journey right now. Right. Because I wasn't able to get to God because I didn't have somebody like me who was like, look, I'm still figuring it out. Right. And I'm going to share with you guys what I figured out. I'm going to share with you guys what I feel like the Holy Spirit's telling me. And if it's wrong, I'm okay to be, because it's not prideful. It's not, oh, you're talking to me.
I know it all.
Yeah. But I feel like the Holy Spirit's working within me, and that's the great surrender.
I think we talked about kind of where you're at now, but I want to backtrack just a touch and ask, was there a defining moment where you wanted to go and then open the Bible and say, I need to do this for myself?
Yeah, it was the moment that I think I talked about this on the podcast a few times, but like heavily was a weed smoker, and that was my like escape. And I wanted the weed smoker that'd be on the couch. Like I would smoke weed and then be like, let's work 18 more hours. Like it was almost like, it was the opposite of what people would be, right? And the weed would just like dumb me. Like when I needed something, I was sad, I was smoke, and then, okay, I can just work now, right? And so when I was struggling with it, because my son was getting old enough where he would then go outside, and there was one day that he was like, Daddy. And I was just like, man, I don't want that. I don't. But then I felt so scared because I was like, it was where I smoked for 17 years, and it was multiple joints a day. It wasn't just like one time a day. It was like every 2 hours. So it was just like, I think I was high more than I was sober. And like, I was probably always high. The only time I was sober is when I was like sleeping, really. And like people wouldn't know, like people would like be like, he's operating like Jared, right? And so it wasn't like I was high. It just regulated me now. So I didn't feel this anxiety. And then when the weed would stop, and then I would smoke again, then I would lower my anxiety again. So then the 2 hour mark was interesting because it starts wearing off, and then anxiety would raise like crazy. And it's my body's makeup of being like, we need more dopamine. We need more, like, we need this substance to feel better. And so when I was in a really dark spot where I was just like, I do not know how to get rid of this. And so I called Rick, I called people that were godly people, and I was just like, I do not know how to do this. And I remember this one day I was like, I think I'm going to have to be a weed smoker the rest of my life, because I do not see a pathway of how to stop this. And if somebody's in this situation, you know exactly, it's hard, dude, especially when you smoke for that long and that much, it becomes a part of your life. And the withdrawals are so brutal. It's not just the dreams, the night sweats. It is just, you are miserable. You are so depressed, so frustrated, so angry. If you said something wrong to me during that phase, I would literally want to punch you in the face. Like it was like that anger, right? And so it wasn't comfortable. And you knew that you could just go smoke it and it'd be gone. That's the hardest part. So it's like, I could fix it just like that.
Yeah.
So it got to a point where it was just a fight back and forth, and I would go a month with stopping, and then I would get through the phase, and then I would be like, oh, let's just go back. Let's just go back. And it was just always like that. And I got to a point finally where I just, again, brokenhearted. I broke, and I took a walk exactly where we got married on that hill. And I remember, I think I told you this, but I remember God is saying, drop to your knees and surrender. And so I like put my hands down, because it's all rocks and everything over there. I put my hands down, and I feel him just say, drop to your knees, right? And I was like, got it. Because that wasn't surrender. Hands down to make sure my cute little knees don't get hurt. It's not surrender. And I stood back up, and I just dropped to my knees. And I said, I fully surrender. And I started standing up and walking and just saying these prayers that didn't even feel like it was me. It was just like, Lord, anoint me. Make me powerful with you. So when people look at me, they don't see me, they see you. Allow me to break this curse that's upon me. Allow me to get away from the things that are controlling me. I want to be controlled by you. I want to break and I'm walking in circles and talking, and I'm just like, I feel this power. I'm just like, whoa, right? So I get down from that hill, and I'm on fire now. I'm like, the devil messed up. I'm like, let's go to war now, right? And so I stopped weed completely, and I was like, we got it. We unlocked the thing. We're good to go. We're going to be the most powerful Christian on the planet. Start telling people like, the devil messed up, man. I'm coming. And then about 60 days went by. I'm on fire for God, reading the Bible, just like on fire. And then all of a sudden I just didn't hear his voice anymore. I was like, oh, wait. I don't feel on fire anymore. I don't feel this thing that I had. I don't feel this, like, you know, kind of getting scared by the devil a little bit now. Like it's almost like you got God with you in a room, and then like you have all your army, and then you're like, yeah, like, you want us? And then you look behind you, they're all gone. You're like, what? I'm sorry. So I think for me, that's when I started realizing, and then I felt God say, just read the Bible. And I started realizing that that's a normal part of everybody's journey. Is God will be there to kill your Goliath, and then you'll go into, then you'll be turned by your same people, and then you'll be in the caves, and you don't really hear God. That's why David was saying, like, put me underneath your wing, and like he just didn't feel God was there. You kind of just see a lot of it where like a lot of the stories are always desert season for you to then build up. And what I started realizing is, I was thinking God will fix the weed and then I'll be good. That's the key. That's the one thing. And God's like, good little boy, you fix that one thing. I have greater plans for you. We're going to have to now go through another hard thing that's just as hard as the weed was, but we're going to have to then break your spirit of pride. And that's going to be harder because that's not so subtle. And it's going to be, you had to pick up weed and light the weed and put it in your mouth and blow. The spirit of pride just comes up in a heartbeat. So we're going to have to break that a little bit. We're going to also break your spirit of scarcity and work on your spirit of abundance. Are you willing to give your money away even though you don't have a lot of it right now? Okay. Yeah, I am. Great. Are you willing to cut a huge check? And your wife is going to probably be like, what are you doing? And doubt you. And are you willing to be like, we got this, right? And so those are things that he was refining for me in the past, time that, I've had this surrender. And what I've started to realize is when God gives me a challenge, I'm not thinking, oh God, why? Like, why is this so hard and all this different stuff? It's almost like, cool. Like God disciplines those that he loves. And if he is putting me through a hard time, also, I think people blame the devil when things go wrong a lot of times. And a lot of times God is allowing that to happen to build you to be bigger, because the devil really messed up by tormenting me with weed. He probably should have allowed me just to kind of keep it around for a little bit and not like be obsessive over it. And I think he was just trying to kill me. I think it's like, that's where he doesn't understand love, where he's just like, let's just bury this person. Right. And now you broke me open. He though knows me. The devil knows my family line, and that's next episode we'll get into, which is going to get more into this, but he knows everything about my lineage. He knows everything about that stuff. And so he knows what to use against me. And so for me, if I'm not in the scripture, if you can't attack me, you'll attack my family, right? So during these times, like we started being attacked by a lot of things. And so that was actually more conviction that I was like, oh, this is more spiritual. Things would happen to Caden. Things would happen to Megan. He was like, okay, I can't get to him, but I can get through other people that aren't as strong as him right now with his faith, because every time I do something to Jared, he just gives it to God and then he gets stronger. And okay, let's try to then piss him off with client stuff. Let's try to piss him off and let's try to get him back into the old habits that he has. Because I know that if Jared doesn't have money, typically what he does, he goes back and then he starts to have that be the idol. So God's like working on that with my heart, because then it's like, well, the devil can't use that against me. And so when it exposes that, where it's like, oh, I feel the spirit, I now know, okay, God needs to take that away. So I'll start to be cautious of it. And then I'll start to read stories around that. And I'll start to talk to people about that. And I'll start to be vulnerable with people about that. And that's the most important thing with the counsel, is you can't just say what you want to say. You have to say the truth. And it was hard for me to go to mentors that I respected a lot and be like, I am smoking weed every day. And saying like truth about things that you're embarrassed by, right? And so that's why it takes courage. And I think that's what really changed for me, where it was me making the decision. The hill was the Goliath moment. And then I went through the desert and I was just like, wait a minute, like why? This is not what I thought it was. I thought it was just going to be like this forever. And then I started recognizing like God has, and the thing that somebody told me which fired me up is I feel like we're in the fig tree era. A lot of things are happening in the world where we are looking like end times are sooner than we think, right? Obviously, you don't know the day and time, but you know around the time. And God does say during the fig tree era, and all the things he talks about during that passage is like, okay, where everything's lining up pretty closely to everything. And he says that generation will not pass without it happening. So I do feel like the generation is like, we're pretty close. We're closer than ever, for sure, right? And we have the most evil in the world, besides the days of Noah. That's why it says like, what will be again in the days of Noah. And so I think we're starting to get that direction. And somebody told me this. They said, you don't put your worst players in at the end of the game. You put your best players in at the end of the game. And that fired me up, because I was like, when you were early in the Bible, you felt God everywhere, right? You saw the burning bush, you saw the miracles, you saw the part of the Red Sea, you saw that stuff. So it's like you saw God, right? We don't see God much unless we seek it, unless we trust what I'm saying. Because you can also manipulate my words and say like, oh, well, that thing on the hill was probably just made up, right? Like that it was in your head. Yeah, exactly, right? You could totally say that. Like, was there a physical thing that was there? And it's like, well, yeah, checkmate, I guess, right? It's what you think. It's your opinion.
Right.
I felt something and I see something, and there's certain things I do and I'm just like, that's not coming from me. It can't come from me. And I think some people overdo where everything is God, and that's why people are like, I don't really trust it, because why don't I hear from God? It's like, well, I was brokenhearted and I was seeking, and I was like, and it just happens, right? They'd be like, well, you were brokenhearted. That's maybe like your body's response. Like you could always do these different things, right? That's why it's difficult. That's why your best players have to have the highest amount of hope and faith during the time, because we don't really see these things. Now, when you start to seek it, you start to see a lot more of it. And for me, it's like now I'm surrounded with people that our deliverance ministry, and they're casting out demons. I'm getting videos from them, and I'm seeing the real battle that's happening where the everyday person can't even fathom that. And I'm starting to see it, and I'm just like, ooh, got it. Yeah. You see, I mean, even you see at the World Cup, you look at when they walk out, it's all symbolism, right? It's the Eye of Horus. And so when you start to learn those things, you start to see it, and you're like, everything is literally like, it's in our face. But our eyes are shut wide, right? Or eyes wide shut. It's like, that's what's happening. And so I think that's pretty much the thing is like, God's kind of allowed me to see not just the light, but the darkness too. And I've gotten closer with God, not just because of his grace and his glory and his holiness. I've gotten closer to God because I've been seeing the devil's cards. And I'm like, I'm not going to go. I'm not on your side at all. Mm-hmm. I don't like anything that you do. I'm not cool with anything about you. And so part of me loves God more because I hate the devil so much. And some people just don't even know the devil's real. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think kind of to wrap this up, it's a good way to talk about like how you bring God into business because of this point in your relationship. It's just how you bring God into your life, you know, and just the way that you view life and how you make everyday decisions is now also how you do it in business. Before it could almost have been separate a little bit, like I need to make money. Okay, times are hard. God, can I have you? Now it's like, I just want to live my life in abundance, you know, with this abundance of wealth in the spirit, and how you choose to live out your everyday is how you choose to live out the decisions you make in business.
There's many mansions in my Father's house. And so when you start to realize too, that this life is short-lived, a lot of people think to themselves that I want to build wealth in heaven forever, which I love, but I want both. And I don't want both because of myself. I want both because of God, because you can't get the second without the first. And so like if you say like, I want to have all this wealth in this earth, and then I want to have wealth in heaven, but your wealth on earth is all about you, you're not getting those treasures in heaven. So for me, it has to start with the treasures in heaven first. And then also that, no, God will allow me to be abundant here. And we've been more abundant than ever. Do we have hard times? Of course, but like so much easier to do it with God, but it's also asterisk harder because it tests your faith. But if you could fully surrender and be like, all right, like God, you allowed this to happen, right? Like kind of with the story of Job, right? I want to get to the faith and the servant mindset that Job had. And what did God do after all that? He gave him back a lot more. And a lot of people will say like, well, he killed, like his whole family was killed though. So like really, yes, he got more money and more things, but God will always redeem. And that's the thing that's like, I want to make sure that people, when they see me, they see God. And that's the flow that I want to kind of work through. So that's pretty much it. We love you guys. As always, subscribe, like, comment. We love the comments. No matter what your view is on life, I can totally sympathize with it. And so if this makes you angry, share it. If it makes you happy, share it. Whatever it is, this purpose of this podcast is to start a conversation. We're trying to give information from the heart and what we experience, but that's the cool thing is everybody's experienced different things. But at the end of the day, there has to be only one source. And so that's the conversation that we want to keep pushing is what source is your main source? And hopefully this podcast encouraged you. So we love you guys. We'll see you next episode.